Dr. Una Park wiped sweat from her forehead as she carefully brushed dirt away from the strange symbols carved into the ancient stone. The heat on Kepler 442c was almost unbearable, even with her cooling suit working at full power. She had been digging in these ruins for 3 months, and today felt different. Today felt important. "Minho, come look at this," she called to her teammate. Minho Choi was busy setting up translation equipment nearby. He was the best language expert she knew, and if anyone could make sense of these symbols, it would be him. Minho walked over, carrying his portable scanner. "What did you find, Yuna?" "These symbols are different from the others we've seen. They're deeper, carved with more care. And look at this." She pointed to a section of the wall where the stone seemed to glow faintly. "The stone itself is different here." Captain Seung-ho Kim approached them, his boots crunching on the rocky ground. "How much longer do you need down here? The other teams are getting nervous about staying on this planet too long." Yuna looked up at her captain. Seung-ho was a good leader, patient but careful. He knew when to take risks and when to play it safe. "Just give us a few more hours. I think we're close to something big." The ruins they were exploring were older than anything else they had found in this part of the galaxy. The Galactic Collective had many member species, but none of them had built anything like this. The stone was made from materials that didn't exist on any known world. The construction methods were completely unknown. Jae-hyun Lee, their engineer, was scanning the walls with his equipment. "Captain, these readings are strange. The power source for this building is still active after millions of years. That should be impossible." "Everything about this place is impossible," Seung-ho replied. "That's why we're here." The human team was part of a larger expedition that included aliens from across the galaxy. The Klaxons looked like giant insects with sharp, intelligent eyes. They were logical and efficient in everything they did. The resonants were made of living crystal and communicated through musical sounds. The Nebulans were gas-based beings who lived in special suits when visiting solid planets. Humans were the newest members of the Galactic Collective. Most alien species still didn't trust them completely. They thought humans were too unpredictable, too emotional. But humans had proven to be surprisingly good at archaeological work. They had a talent for finding things that others missed. "Yuna, you need to see this," Minho said, staring at his scanner. His voice was excited but also worried. "The translation program is picking up something. These aren't just random symbols. This is a message." Yuna dropped her brush and hurried to look at Minho's screen. The ancient symbols were slowly being converted into words she could understand, but the words didn't make sense. "It's talking about elders," Minho said, "but not in the way we usually hear about them. This is written by the elders themselves." Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories about the elders. They were supposed to be an ancient race that had traveled the stars long before any current species existed. Most scientists thought they were just legends, stories that different cultures told to explain things they didn't understand. "What does it say?" Seung-ho asked. Minho read from his screen. "To those who come after know that we have witnessed the rise of many species. We have watched worlds bloom with life and intelligence. We have seen the patterns that repeat across time and space." The translation continued as more symbols became clear. "But there is one world that concerns us greatly. A world of blue oceans and green lands. A world whose people do not follow the patterns we have observed elsewhere." Yuna felt her heart beating faster. "Blue oceans and green lands. That sounds like Earth," Seung-ho finished. "They're talking about Earth." Jae-hyun looked confused. "But this message is millions of years old. Humans didn't even exist when this was written." The translation program kept working. More words appeared on the screen. "The inhabitants of this world possess a quality that we have never seen before. When faced with impossible situations, they do not surrender. When logic says they should give up, they continue fighting. This quality could destroy them or it could save everything." The team stood in silence, staring at the screen. A message from the legendary elders written millions of years ago, and it was about their home world. Klaxtar, the lead Klaxon researcher, approached their group. His compound eyes reflected the glow from Minho's scanner. "Dr. Park, what have you discovered?" "Our sensors detected unusual energy readings from this location." Yuna looked at her teammates. They had agreed to share all discoveries with the full expedition team, but this felt different. "This felt dangerous. We found a message," she said carefully. "Written by whoever built this place." "Show me," Klaxtar demanded. The Klaxon way of speaking was always direct and commanding. Minho held up his scanner so the alien could see the translation. Klaxtar's eyes moved rapidly as he read the words. His body became very still, which Yuna knew meant he was thinking hard. "This is unexpected," Klaxtar said finally. "If this is authentic, it changes everything we know about galactic history." "Is it authentic?" Sungho asked. Jaehyun ran more scans on the stone. "The energy patterns match. The age is right. I can't find any signs that this is fake." Resonant Harmony Zevon drifted over to join them. The crystal being's musical voice filled the air with concerned notes. "What discovery brings such tension to your group?" Before anyone could answer, Yuna's scanner beeped loudly. She looked down and saw that it had found something else. A hidden panel in the wall had opened, revealing a chamber beyond. "There's more," she said. "The message continues deeper in the ruins." Klaxtar's eyes focused on the opening. "We must report this to the Collective Council immediately." "Not yet," Yuna said firmly. "We need to understand what we've found first. If we're wrong about this, we'll look like fools. If we're right..." She paused, thinking about the implications. "If we're right, this could change how every species in the galaxy thinks about humanity." Sungho nodded. "We keep this between our team until we know more. Can you translate the rest of the message?" "I'll need time," Minho said. "And we'll need to go deeper into the ruins. But yes, I think I can do it." As they prepared to enter the hidden chamber, none of them could have imagined what they would find next. The elders had left more than just a message about Earth. They had left a warning about something that was coming, something that would test everything they thought they knew about survival and hope. The ancient stone walls seemed to whisper secrets as they stepped into the darkness, carrying lights that pushed back shadows that had remained undisturbed for millions of years. The council chambers on Alpha Centauri were the most impressive structure humans had ever seen. The building floated in space, held together by technology that no single species fully understood. It was built by all the members of the Galactic Collective working together, each contributing their best knowledge and skills. Dr. Yuna Park stood before the massive assembly, feeling very small. Thousands of alien beings filled the chamber, representing dozens of different species from across the galaxy. The air hummed with translation devices working to convert speech between hundreds of different languages. "The floor recognizes Dr. Park of Earth," announced the council speaker, a tall resonant whose crystal body rang like a bell when she spoke. Yuna stepped forward to the presentation platform. Her hands shook slightly as she activated the holographic display. The symbols from the Elder Ruins appeared in the air above her, glowing softly. "Honored council members," she began. 3 weeks ago, our team discovered ruins on Kepler 442c that appear to be millions of years old. What we found there has significant implications for our understanding of galactic history." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Klaxon delegation sat in perfect rows, their compound eyes all focused on Yuna. The nebulans floated in their containment fields, swirling with what looked like nervous energy. Other species she didn't recognize watched from the higher galleries. Cheung Nam, the human ambassador to the collective, gave Yuna an encouraging nod from the diplomatic section. Cheung had fought hard to get humanity a voice in the council, and she knew how important this presentation could be. "The ruins contain a message written by the beings we call the Elders." Yuna continued. "We believe this is the first direct communication ever discovered from this legendary civilization." The chamber fell silent. Everyone had heard stories about the Elders, but most considered them myths. Yuna activated the translation display. The message reads, "To those who come after, know that we have witnessed the rise of many species. But there is one world that concerns us greatly, a blue world they call Earth." The reaction was immediate. Hundreds of voices began speaking at once in dozens of languages. The translation system struggled to keep up with the noise. "Order," called the council speaker, her crystal voice cutting through the chaos. "Let the human continue." Yuna waited for quiet, then continued reading. "The inhabitants of this world possess a dangerous quality that we have observed in no other species. They do not know when to surrender. This trait will either doom them or save the galaxy." High Coordinator Vrexhai of the Klaxon stood up abruptly. His metallic voice carried clearly through the chamber. "This is obviously a fabrication. No civilization could predict the development of another species millions of years in advance." "The evidence suggests otherwise," Yuna replied calmly. "Our analysis confirms the age and authenticity of the ruins. The technology used to create the message is beyond anything we currently understand." Even if the message is real, said Harmonic Resonance Prime, speaking for the resonant delegation. Why should we trust these so-called elders? What do we know about their intentions? Ambassador Chaeyoung stood up in the diplomatic section. May I address the council? The speaker granted permission and Chaeyoung moved to join Yuna on the platform. The complete message provides more context. Chaeyoung said, Dr. Park, please show them the rest. Yuna activated another section of the translation. New text appeared in the holographic display. We have left safeguards throughout the galaxy. When the Great Devourer returns, as it inevitably will, the survivors will need the strength that only stubbornness can provide. Earth's children are the key to what comes next. The chamber erupted again. This time the noise was not just conversation but alarm. Several species had legends about something called the Great Devourer, though the stories were different across cultures. The Great Devourer is a myth, declared Coordinator Vrexai. An ancient story used to frighten younglings, is it? Asked Elder Mistwind of the Nebulans, her voice barely audible through her translation device. My people have stories of the dark time, when something consumed entire star systems. We thought they were just tales from our distant past. Captain Seung-ho Kim, who had been given permission to attend as a technical advisor, stepped forward. With respect, Coordinator, we found evidence of more than just stories. The ruins contain star charts, showing the paths of destruction across multiple galactic regions. The pattern is consistent with something moving through space, consuming everything in its path. Even if such a threat exists, said Prime Harmonic, why should Earth's people be special? What makes humans different from the rest of us? Yuna looked around the chamber. She had hoped to avoid this question, but it was inevitable. According to the Elder message, most species have a survival limit, a point where they accept defeat and try to preserve what they can. Humans appear to lack this limit. We keep fighting even when logic says we should stop. That sounds like a mental defect, not an advantage, Coordinator Vrexai said coldly. Ambassador Chaeyoung stepped forward. Perhaps, but consider this. In the 50 years since humanity joined the collective, human forces have been involved in 17 conflicts. We have never surrendered, even when outnumbered and outgunned. Some of you have called this reckless. Others have called it inspiring. Yuna noticed nods from some of the younger species delegations. Humans had fought alongside many of them in border conflicts and liberation wars. The elders left one final part to their message, Yuna said. She activated the last section of the translation. We could not save our own civilization when the Devourer came for us. We accepted the inevitable and tried to preserve what we could. But we have learned that acceptance is not always wisdom. We leave this warning for those who come after. The Devourer feeds on surrender as much as it feeds on matter. Only those who refuse to give up have any chance of stopping it. The chamber was completely quiet now. Even the background hum of the translation devices seemed subdued. So what do you propose we do with this information? Asked Elder Mistwind. Before Yuna could answer, Coordinator Vrexai spoke again. I propose we place humanity under collective supervision for galactic security. If these beings are truly as unpredictable as this message suggests, they could be dangerous to galactic stability. Several delegations began voicing support for the motion. Yuna felt her heart sink. They had hoped to strengthen humanity's position in the collective, not weaken it. But then something unexpected happened. Representative Kalotu of the Vorthan stood up. The Vorthans were a young species that had recently been liberated from slavery by a joint collective operation led by human forces. I object to this motion, Kalotu said firmly. The humans have shown us what it means to fight for others, not just for themselves. If this ancient message is true, perhaps their dangerous quality is exactly what the galaxy needs. Other voices joined in support. The Zalani delegation, the Freytalk representatives, and several other younger species spoke against the supervision motion. When the vote was called, it failed by a narrow margin. Humanity would remain a full member of the collective, but Yuna could see the concern in many alien faces. After the session ended, Ambassador Chaeyoung approached Yuna in the corridor outside the chamber. That could have gone better, Chaeyoung said. At least we're still free, Yuna replied. But I have a feeling this is just the beginning. If the elders were right about everything else, then the Great Devourer is real. And it's coming. Chaeyoung looked out through the chamber's transparent walls at the stars beyond. Then we'd better figure out what makes humans so special before it gets here. Neither of them noticed the small probe that had been monitoring the council session from deep space. Its message traveled faster than light toward the darkness between galaxies, where something vast and hungry had been sleeping for a very long time. The probe's message was simple. The warning has been discovered. They know we are coming. In the darkness, something ancient began to stir. Dr. Hyun-Woo Kang stood in the center of the coordination room aboard the research vessel New Horizon, surrounded by holographic displays showing star maps from across the galaxy. Each glowing dot represented a newly discovered elder site, and the pattern they formed made his stomach feel cold. "How many confirmed sites do we have now?" he asked his assistant G1. 47 across 12 different worlds, G1 replied, updating the display. And Dr. Park's team just sent word from the Andromeda Research Station. They found 3 more. The discovery at Kepler 442c had triggered the largest archaeological expedition in galactic history. Every major species had sent teams to search their territories for similar ruins. What they found was both amazing and terrifying. Every elder site contained the same warning about Earth, but each one provided additional details that painted a clearer picture of what the elders had seen in humanity's future. Hyun-Woo activated the communication array to check in with the various research teams. The first transmission came from Thalassa, an ocean world in the Vega system. "This is Dr. Yoon Song reporting from the Thalassa site," came the voice through the speakers. "We've completed translation of the message here." "It's unsettling. What does it say?" Hyun-Woo asked. "They will fight even when victory is impossible. They will continue advancing when retreat is the only logical option. We have observed them in simulated scenarios across thousands of potential timelines, and in every case they choose struggle over survival." Hyun-Woo made notes on his tablet. Each site seemed to focus on a different aspect of human behavior that the elders had found significant. The next report came from Harmone, the crystal world of the resonance. Dr. Sun-Ho Kim was leading the excavation there alongside a team of resident archaeologists. "The message here is different but related," Sun-Ho reported. "It says, they will sacrifice themselves for strangers. We have watched other species form alliances based on mutual benefit. But Earth's children will die for beings they have never met, simply because it is right to do so." More reports came in throughout the day. From the floating cities of Nimbus, "They will choose hope when logic demands despair." From the desert world of Zerion, "They will rebuild what others would abandon." From the ice planet Glacialis, "They will forgive enemies that others would destroy forever." Each message added another piece to a puzzle that Hyun-Woo was beginning to understand, though he didn't like what it revealed. His brother Dong-Yun's voice crackled through the communication system from the edge of known space. Dong-Yun was serving aboard the exploration vessel Persistence, investigating the most distant elder sites they had found. "Hyun-Woo, you need to hear this," Dong-Yun said, his voice tense with excitement and fear. "We found the main archive." "Where are you?" Hyun-Woo asked. "A dead world in the rim sector. No name, just catalog number XB447. But this place is different. It's huge, and the technology here is far more advanced than the other sites." Hyun-Woo waited while Dong-Hyun's team transmitted their data. When the translation appeared on his screen, he had to read it twice to believe what he was seeing. "The Great Devourer consumed our civilization when we accepted the inevitable. We calculated the odds of victory and found them to be 0. We calculated the cost of resistance and found it to be everything we had built. So we chose preservation over defiance, survival over struggle. We were wrong." The message continued. "The Devourer feeds on surrender as much as it feeds on matter. Each species that accepts defeat makes it stronger. Each civilization that chooses logic over hope gives it more power. We have learned too late that some battles must be fought regardless of the outcome. Earth's children will not make this mistake. They will fight when fighting is pointless. They will hope when hope is foolish. They will sacrifice when sacrifice seems wasteful. And perhaps in their beautiful madness they will find a way to wound something that we thought was invincible." Hyun-Woo sat back in his chair, trying to process what he had read. The elders hadn't just been observing humanity. They had been testing them, running scenarios, preparing them for a specific purpose. "There's more," Dong-Hyun said. "The archive contains star charts showing the Devourer's path through the galaxy. It's not random, Hyun-Woo. It follows a pattern, consuming civilizations in a specific order to maximize the fear and despair of those who remain. Where is it now? Hyunwoo asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. According to these charts, it should be somewhere in the void between galaxies, but Dongyan's transmission was interrupted by an urgent alert from the New Horizons sensor array. Astronomer Nyan Seo's voice came over the ship's speakers. All department heads to the observation deck immediately. We have a situation. Hyunwoo hurried to the observation deck where Nyan was studying readings from the ship's most powerful telescopes and sensors. What did you find? He asked. Nyan pointed to a display showing deep space beyond the galactic edge. Movement. Something massive coming from intergalactic space. The gravitational signature is unlike anything we've ever seen. How massive? Hyunwoo asked. Conservative estimate? At least the size of a small moon. But the energy readings suggest it's much larger than that. And it's not alone. She enhanced the image, revealing smaller objects surrounding the main mass. Scout ships, maybe. Or advanced scouts. They're moving faster than the main body, probing our outer systems. How long until they reach inhabited space? Based on their current speed, the scouts will reach the rim colonies in about 6 months. The main body will take longer, maybe 2 years. Hyunwoo felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He activated the ship's communication system to contact the Galactic Collective Council. This is Dr. Hyunwoo Kang, aboard the research vessel New Horizon. Priority 1, emergency transmission for the Council. While they waited for the connection, more reports came in from across the galaxy. Other observation stations were detecting the same movement. The news spread quickly through collective space. The alien races reacted exactly as the Elder messages had predicted they would. The Klaxons immediately began calculating their odds of survival and started construction of deep underground bunkers. The resonance sang mournful harmonies about the end of their civilization. The Nebulans retreated to the deepest atmospheres of gas giant planets, as far from open space as they could get. But humans reacted differently. Captain Sung-ho Kim volunteered his ship for deep space reconnaissance, offering to get closer to the approaching threat than any other vessel had dared. Dr. Yuna Park insisted on continuing her research despite the danger, believing that the Elder sites might contain information about how to fight the Devourer. Across human space, volunteer fleets began forming. Ships that had been used for exploration and trade were quickly converted for long-range missions. Crews signed up knowing they might never return home. The Collective Council called another emergency session. This time the debate was not about whether to trust human predictions. It was about whether to fight or flee. Logic demands that we evacuate to safe distance, Coordinator Vrexhai stated firmly. We can establish colonies in the Magellanic Clouds and wait for this threat to pass. Wait for how long? Asked Captain Kim over the communication link from his ship. The Elder archives suggest the Devourer doesn't just pass through. It stays until it has consumed everything worth consuming. Then we hide until it moves on to other galaxies, the Coordinator replied. And if it doesn't? Captain Kim asked. What if it just keeps coming? What if running away only delays the inevitable? Ambassador Chae-young spoke from the diplomatic section. The Elders tried running. They tried hiding. They tried being logical about their survival. And they lost everything. Maybe it's time to try something different. You mean try humanity's approach? Asked Prime Harmonic of the Resonance. Fight regardless of the odds? Yes, Chae-young said simply. The Elders spent millions of years preparing us for this moment. They saw something in humanity that they didn't see in themselves. Maybe we should trust their judgment. The debate continued for hours, but Hyunwoo already knew how it would end. Most species would choose evacuation. A few would choose to stay and fight alongside humanity. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Great Devourer continued its approach, confident in its power and hungry for the fear and despair of another galaxy. What it didn't know was that this time, it would face prey that had been specifically designed to refuse becoming victims. The Deep Space Monitoring Station Galileo 7 hung in the darkness at the very edge of human space. Its sensors pointed toward the void between galaxies. Chief astrophysicist Nyan Seo had not slept properly in 3 days, but she couldn't leave her post. The readings on her screens were too important and too terrifying to ignore. Computer, run Analysis Protocol 7 again, she commanded, hoping the results would be different this time. The computer's voice was calm and emotionless. Analysis complete. Object maintains current trajectory toward galactic core. Estimated arrival at outer rim colonies, 47 days. Mass equivalent, approximately 1/10 of galactic core. Energy signature, unknown category. Nayan rubbed her tired eyes and activated the communication array. This is Galileo 7 calling Fleet Command. Priority Alpha message for Admiral Tae-Hyun Oh. The response came quickly. Admiral Oh's face appeared on her screen, showing the strain that everyone in human space was feeling. Report, Dr. CO. The Devourer's main body is now close enough for detailed scans. Admiral, it's not just a ship or a creature. It's a mobile ecosystem. We're detecting what looks like absorbed matter from thousands of different worlds, all somehow integrated into a single massive entity. How massive? Conservative estimate puts it at about the size of Earth's moon. But that's just the visible part. The gravitational distortion suggests something much larger hidden inside. Admiral O was quiet for a moment. What about the scout ships? That's the worst part. They're not ships at all. They're extensions of the main body. Living shadows that can move independently, but remain connected to the primary entity. And Admiral, they've already made contact with our outer colonies. Neon switched her display to show reports from the rim worlds. Kepler station went dark 6 hours ago. Before we lost contact, they reported that the shadows didn't destroy the station. They absorbed it. Buildings, people, even the electronic systems just merged with the shadow entities. Any survivors? None that we can detect. But Admiral, the energy readings suggest that everything and everyone from the station is still there, just incorporated into the shadow. Admiral O's expression grew grimmer. Keep monitoring and report any changes. Fleet Command out. After the communication ended, Nayan looked back at her screens. More red indicators were appearing as outer monitoring posts went silent one by one. Each lost station represented hundreds of people who had been absorbed into something they couldn't understand or fight. Meanwhile, at the mobile capital ship Convergence, the Galactic Collective Council was meeting in permanent emergency session. The Great Chamber was half empty as many species had already begun their evacuation to the Magellanic Clouds. Ambassador Chae-Yong-nam stood before the remaining delegates, flanked by Admiral O and Dr. Yuna Park, who had arrived with the latest findings from the Elder Archives. The situation is clear, Chae-Yong began. The entity approaching our galaxy matches the descriptions in the Elder Warnings. Our analysis confirms that this is the same threat that destroyed their civilization millions of years ago. Coordinator Vrexhai of the Klaxon spoke from his delegation section. Then logic demands immediate evacuation. We have prepared transport fleets for all remaining populations. With respect, Coordinator, Admiral O interrupted. Evacuation may not be possible for everyone. The Devourer's scouts are moving faster than our evacuation ships. They're already cutting off escape routes from the outer systems. Then we save who we can. Vrexhai replied coldly. Some survival is better than total extinction. Is it? Dr. Park asked, stepping forward. We've translated more of the Elder Archives. They tried evacuation too. The Devourer followed them. It hunted down their refugee fleets one by one, using the absorbed knowledge from conquered worlds to predict where they would go. Prime harmonic of the resonance played a worried melody. Then what do you suggest? Fighting this entity directly would be suicide. Maybe, Admiral O said, but we've been developing something we call Protocol Defiance. It's based on the Elder predictions about human behavior. He activated a holographic display showing battle plans unlike anything the Council had seen before. Traditional military doctrine focuses on winning battles through superior force or tactics. Protocol Defiance is different. It assumes we'll lose every conventional engagement but continues fighting anyway. That makes no logical sense, Coordinator Vrexhai stated. Exactly, Admiral O replied. The Elders were logical. They made rational decisions based on available data. And they lost. We're going to try something different. Young Delegate Kalotu of the Vorthan spoke up. What do you need from those of us who choose to stay? Nothing except what you're willing to give, Chae-Yong answered. This isn't about forcing anyone to fight. It's about showing the Devourer something it has never encountered before. Prey that refuses to accept being prey. Over the following weeks, most collective species completed their evacuation. The Klaxons departed in their efficient evacuation fleets. The resonance sang farewell harmonies as they left for distant galaxies. The Nebulans dispersed into deep space, hoping to hide in the cosmic void. But some stayed. A group of young Klaxons who had worked alongside humans volunteered to remain. A harmony of resonance decided that fighting alongside their human friends was more important than survival. Several Nebulan formations chose to stay, calling the human willingness to fight the beautiful madness of solid dwellers. The combined fleet that remained was small compared to the approaching threat, but it represented something new in galactic history. Species working together not for mutual benefit, but because they had chosen hope over logic. Admiral Tae-hyun-oh stood on the bridge of the command ship, Persistence of Hope, watching the sensor displays as the Great Devourer's main body entered the outer edge of their galaxy. The entity was even more massive than their worst estimates, and its shadow scouts were spreading like an infection through space. "All ships, this is Fleet Command," he announced. "Remember, we're not trying to win in any traditional sense. Our goal is to teach this thing something it has never learned, that some prey fights back." Engineer Jae-hyun Lee was working frantically at his station. "Admiral, we're detecting strange readings from the Elder Sites across the galaxy. The ruins are activating. Activating how? Unknown. But whatever they're doing, it's happening in response to the Devourer's presence. It's like they've been waiting for this moment." Dr. Yuna Park's voice came over the communication system from the research vessel New Discovery. "Admiral, I think I know what the Elders meant when they said they left safeguards. These aren't just monuments or warnings. They're weapons. Weapons designed specifically to exploit the Devourer's weaknesses." "What weaknesses?" Admiral O asked. "Its dependence on absorbed consciousness. The Devourer doesn't just consume matter and energy. It absorbs the knowledge and awareness of everything it devours. That's how it's become so powerful over millions of years. And the Elders realize that absorption works both ways. If consciousness can flow into the Devourer, it can also influence what's already inside. But only if that consciousness refuses to be integrated peacefully." Admiral O began to understand. The stubborn human trait the Elders kept talking about. Exactly. Most species, when absorbed, try to preserve themselves by adapting to their new environment. They integrate peacefully to survive. But humans argue, Admiral O finished. Even when arguing is pointless. Even when cooperation would be easier. The Elders designed their safeguards to amplify that effect. If we can get absorbed consciousness into the Devourer's matrix while the Elder Sites are active, we might be able to cause something like cognitive disruption from the inside. Admiral O looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Shadow Scouts. "So our battle plan is to get ourselves eaten and then argue with our captor from the inside?" "In simple terms, yes." Admiral O couldn't help but smile. "You know what? That's the most human plan I've ever heard. All ships prepare for tactical absorption. We're going to show this ancient terror what happens when it tries to digest stubborn prey." The Great Devourer continued its approach, confident in its inevitable victory. It had consumed 1,000 galaxies and absorbed millions of species. It had never encountered meaningful resistance, but it had never tried to digest humanity before. The Great Devourer's massive form eclipsed entire star systems as it approached Earth's solar system. From her position aboard the command ship, Persistence of Hope, Dr. Yuna Park watched through the observation deck's reinforced windows as something larger than most moons blotted out the stars. Its surface writhed with absorbed matter from 1,000,000 dead worlds, all fused into one impossible entity. "All Elder Sites are now fully active," reported Engineer Jae-hyun Lee from his station. "The energy patterns are synchronized across the galaxy. Whatever they're designed to do, it's ready." Admiral Tae-hyun O stood calmly at the center of the bridge, watching the tactical displays that showed their small fleet, positioned between Earth and the approaching horror. They had maybe 300 ships, against something that had consumed entire galactic civilizations. "Fleet status report," he ordered. "All human vessels report ready for protocol defiance," came the response from Captain Seung-oh. Kim aboard the newly christened Hope's Defiance. Allied ships standing by. The Allied ships were few but determined. 12 Klaxon vessels whose crews had chosen logic's opposite. A formation of resonant crystal ships singing battle harmonies that should have been mathematically impossible. Several Nebulan cloud ships that had compressed themselves into forms capable of space combat. "Dr. Park, are you certain about the absorption theory?" Admiral O asked. Yuna nodded, though her hands were shaking. "The Elder archives are clear. The Devourer's power comes from the accumulated knowledge and consciousness of everything it has absorbed. But those consciousnesses are still there. just integrated into its collective matrix. And you believe human consciousness will behave differently? I believe human consciousness will refuse to integrate properly. Will be like a computer virus made of pure stubbornness. The first wave of Shadow Scouts reached their defensive line. These weren't ships in any normal sense, but extensions of the Devourer itself, made of living darkness that seemed to bend space around them. All ships, engage, Admiral O commanded. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, fusion torpedoes, and experimental weapons based on Elder technology lit up the darkness. The Shadow Scouts absorbed some of the attacks, seeming to grow stronger from the energy, but the human ships didn't retreat when their weapons proved ineffective. Instead, they moved closer. "This is Captain Kim," came the voice over the communication system. "Shadow contact in 30 seconds. Beginning tactical absorption procedures." Yuna watched in horror and pride as the Hope's Defiance flew directly into one of the Shadow Scouts. Instead of being destroyed, the ship seemed to merge with the darkness, its hull dissolving into the shadow entity. But then something unexpected happened. The Shadow Scout's movement became erratic, like it was fighting with itself. "Yuna, look at this," Jaehyun called from his station. "The absorbed ship is still transmitting. I'm getting readings from inside the shadow entity." Captain Kim's voice came through, distorted but recognizable. "Still here, Fleet Command. And I have a lot to say to our new host about its interior decorating choices." More ships followed the Hope's Defiance into tactical absorption. Each time the Shadow Scouts began behaving strangely, as if something inside them was causing interference. "The plan is working," Admiral O said with amazement. "The absorbed crews are arguing with the Devourer's collective consciousness." "Admiral," came Dr. Donghyun Park's voice from the research vessel Truth Seeker, "I'm detecting massive energy fluctuations from the Elder sites. I think they're amplifying the effect somehow. On the surface of dozens of worlds across the galaxy, the ancient Elder ruins began to glow with power that had been building for millions of years. The technology they had created was finally serving its purpose, turning the Devourer's greatest strength into a weakness. The Great Devourer itself finally took notice of the resistance. Its massive bulk shifted, orienting toward Earth with what could only be described as attention. Streams of darkness flowed out from its surface, reaching toward the human fleet like grasping fingers. "Time for the main event," Admiral O said quietly. "All remaining ships prepare for primary absorption. Dr. Park, you're certain this will work?" "I'm certain it's our only chance," Yuna replied. The Admiral nodded and opened a channel to the entire fleet. "This is Admiral O. In a few minutes, we're going to be absorbed into that thing. Most military plans try to avoid capture by the enemy. We're doing the opposite. Once we're inside, remember who you are and what you believe in. Don't let them change you. Don't let them make you surrender. Keep arguing, keep fighting, keep being human." He paused, looking around the bridge at his crew. "It's been an honor serving with all of you. Now let's go teach this ancient monster what happens when it tries to digest stubborn prey." The persistence of Hope, along with the remaining human ships and their alien allies, flew directly toward the Great Devourers, reaching tendrils of darkness. One by one, they were enveloped and absorbed into the massive entity. Yuna felt the strange sensation of dissolution as her body became part of something vast and alien. But her consciousness remained intact, and she found herself in a space that defied description. She was surrounded by the absorbed thoughts and memories of millions of different species, all blended together into a collective awareness. And for the first time in eons, that collective awareness was experiencing something it had never felt before: argument. The human consciousnesses refused to integrate peacefully. Captain Kim was demanding to speak to the manager about the poor treatment of absorbed civilizations. Admiral O was filing formal complaints about the entity's methods of expansion. Engineer Lee was criticizing the Devourer's structural design and suggesting improvements. But it wasn't just humans. The absorbed Klaxons were applying logical analysis to the Devourer's behavior and finding it inefficient. The Resonants were singing discord into the collective harmony. The Nebulans were introducing chaotic thought patterns that disrupted the entity's usual order. "What is this?" The Devourer's voice echoed through the collective consciousness, confused and angry. "Why do you not integrate? Why do you not accept your place in the greater whole?" "Because our place isn't in your whole," Yuna found herself saying. "We belong to ourselves." Around her, the absorbed consciousnesses of ancient civilizations began to stir. For millions of years, they had been dormant, integrated into the Devourer's collective, but the human resistance was awakening them, reminding them of what they had lost. "We could have fought," whispered the voice of an elder consciousness that had been absorbed eons ago. "We chose surrender because it seemed logical. But logic is not everything. There are things worth fighting for even when you cannot win," added another ancient voice. The Devourer tried to suppress the growing rebellion within its own consciousness, but the elder sites across the galaxy were amplifying every act of resistance. The safeguards that had been dormant for millions of years were finally fulfilling their purpose. "You cannot resist forever," the Devourer declared. "I have absorbed galaxies. I have consumed civilizations beyond counting. I am inevitable." "Maybe," Admiral O's voice replied from within the collective. "But you know what? We don't care. We're going to keep arguing with you anyway." And they did. The human consciousnesses, supported by their alien allies and amplified by elder technology, turned the Devourer's own absorption mechanism into a battlefield. They fought not with weapons or force, but with the simple refusal to accept defeat. For the first time in its ancient existence, the great Devourer began to doubt itself. The collective consciousness that had been unified for millions of years was fracturing, split between those who had accepted absorption and those who refused to stop fighting. The entity's physical form began to destabilize. Its shadow scouts across the galaxy faltered and retreated. The massive bulk that had been approaching Earth slowed, then stopped, then began to withdraw. But the retreat wasn't fast enough. The rebellion within its consciousness was spreading, awakening more and more absorbed civilizations to the possibility of resistance. "This is not possible," the Devourer said, its voice now uncertain. No species has ever been human before," Yuna interrupted. "We specialize in impossible things." The great Devourer, faced with prey that had turned predator through sheer bloody-mindedness, made a decision it had never made before in millions of years of existence. The massive entity began withdrawing from the galaxy, leaving behind debris from partially ejected consciousness that it could no longer properly digest. Across space, elder sites went dark. Their purpose finally fulfilled. Yuna Park found herself back in her own body aboard the Persistence of Hope, floating in space where the Devourer had been moments before. Around her, other absorbed ships and crews were materializing as the entity fled and expelled what it could no longer control. "All ships, report status," came Admiral O's voice, wonderfully familiar and human. One by one, the absorbed vessels reported in. Most crews were alive and intact, though confused about their experience inside the collective consciousness fleet command. "This is Captain Kim. I think I just had the strangest argument of my life. Also, I now know way too much about the interior structure of cosmic horrors across the galaxy. The evacuation fleets of various species received